And now to our first business story. Government will in the coming days start drawing down the $367 million IMF cash from the Bank of Ghana. The IMF yesterday formally credited the central bank's account after the board approved disbursement on Monday. The Bank of Ghana will take the dollars and give the cedi equivalent to the finance minister upon request. These withdrawals will be advanced towards financing some projects and expenditure in the 2025 budget. Now, away from that, research firm IC Securities is projecting that inflation could end year at around 11.3%. The firm is basing its prediction on favorable crop harvest season in the coming month. This was captured in the firm's latest report on the economy. For some, the development could mean that much about single-digit inflation would not be achieved this year. Also, work on several donor-funded projects that were stalled over the years could resume in the coming weeks. This follows significant progress made with commercial creditors on restructuring their debt. Judge Wiafe has more.
Several projects that are ongoing in the country are funded by donors, commercial creditors, and a fraction coming from the government of Ghana. However, due to some delays in reaching a deal with the commercial creditors, some of these projects have been put on hold. But following fresh negotiations that government has kicked off, some of these lenders are revising their notes. This has resulted in some of these projects that were almost completed but halted. Talks are underway to start them. These projects include some road construction works as well as some projects in the health sector in the country. This has also resulted in government moving first to provide its component of funding for some of these projects. Now, sources say it could be one of the reasons why government is moving fast to pay with contractors after the Auditor General completed work on auditing some of these projects that were undertaken by them.
Let's get on Zoom and speak to economist Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie on the IMF inflation and the cash resumption of stalled projects in the country. Welcome to Business Live, Dr. Sarkodie. Now, the IMF cash has finally come in. What project will you advise government to direct the funds to? Because we understand that it is for budgeted projects in the 2025 budget that was initially read by the finance minister.
Yes, thank you for having me. As you are aware, if you take a look at the 2025 budget, the government is not committing itself so much to huge expenditures. They are containing expenditure. They want to stay within the budget, make things tight. And so the sectors that stand out that could get funding or being financed by the IMF release will be maybe first to agriculture production, because we want to contain food inflation. You don't want food prices to increase that much. You want to ensure food security. And so, we advocate that a greater part of it should go to agriculture. And then, if you read the IMF documents, they have been praising the government of Ghana for securing or cushioning the poor and the vulnerable in society. So all the social intervention programs which has been listed, the free SHS, capitation grant, livelihood empowerment against poverty, school feeding program, etc., etc. So I believe that another part, a greater part of the money should go into cushioning the poor and the vulnerable in society. We know how tight things have been, especially also with the quarterly adjustment of tariffs, the impact on businesses, the impact on us. So agriculture and safety nets should take the lead in terms of which items will be on top of the scale of preference.
Okay. Doc, in terms of investor confidence, what could be the impact on the cedi and the larger economy?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the whole idea of going to the IMF program is not only about the money of $3 billion. Some people were saying maybe individuals give us the money. but it's not really about the money. It's about the confidence. It's about policy credibility. When the IMF is in any economy, international businesses will then develop confidence about your economy and they would want to do business with you. See how successful we've been able to restructure our debt, both domestic and external. So the presence of IMF is even releasing funds from the World Bank. So we have that goodwill now. It has opened doors for domestic businesses and also international businesses. Ghana government has been very lucky. We've been successful with the external debt restructuring. Recently, we saw how China was willing to restructure their debt, even Italy and most countries around the world. So it's good news. It opens up this inflow of dollars would increase reserves as we have around the current reserves around 10 to 11 billion dollars. We also have gold reserves to help shore up the value of our city. Our city has been appreciating since January 2025. So everything seems to be working well for our economy now. So it will continue to give some value to our city. We know how the city also feeds into inflation. So once you're able to contain your city depreciation, or if your city's value is sustained, then there will be no much impact on inflation. Inflation can easily be contained. That's why I advocate that the government releases more money for agricultural sector so that at least we can control food prices. Because food inflation is greater than non-food inflation. So with all these developments, it's positive signal. Our city will continue to have some value. Inflation will continue to decline. These are macroeconomic indicators for any business man and woman who wants to invest in our country. They look at interest rate, they look at exchange rate, they look at inflation. I think right now the next fight will be against interest rate, because our interest rate is so high, around 29, 28%. Is very high. But at least if there's a good start, we've been able to fight inflation, we're able to stabilize our city with all this investor confidence. It's good for our economy, and hopefully interest rates will come down for businesses to borrow at a lower cost.
Dr. Sarkodie, I want us to stay a bit on the inflation bit. IC Research is projecting 11.3% end of year. Does it look like the single-digit projection that the government was expecting to achieve may not likely happen? And what do you make of the current spate of 4?
Well, if you listen to the finance minister during the budget reading, he was a bit reserved. He said that the target would be 11.9% by the end of the year. And he also added that we could do better than 11.9. So maybe 11.9 is the maximum we could get for the end of the year. If you go below 11.9%, praise God. I believe that we can do single digit this year. I believe we can do single digit this year. Even the ICCI security, they have even projected a good crop season for us. So a good crop season will bring down food prices, and our city is appreciating, so it will not feed into inflation that much. Our transport fares will be contained. The international crude oil price has also been declining. It rose for a bit for a short period, and it has continued to decline. So with all these developments, they are working together to ensure this single-digit inflation. So I am positive that we can get a single-digit inflation by the end of this year. If we don't get it, maybe around 10% should still be fine, and then maybe next year we can hit a single-digit, because we have seen how steep the disinflation process has been. Always, I look at how steep the curve is. If the curve is flat, then you say we may not get it, but the curve is very steep. The disinflation curve is steep. Inflation declined from 21 to 18, and as we speak, it's around 13. So a decline from 18 to 13 in just 1 month, that's 5 percentage points or 4.9 percentage points. That is very steep. And that's why I'm confident that with this development, if it continues, with the release of the tranche from IMF and the World Bank support and all this investor confidence, we can really get single-digit inflation. I also foresee the BoG, the Bank of Ghana, reducing the policy rate because of how steep the disinflation process has been, so that at least businesses can borrow at a lower cost. So I am very positive that we can get single-digit inflation. It's not beyond us at all, okay. Especially with the cedi appreciation. Single-digit is not beyond us.
Finally, the government has begun payment or resumed payment for projects that were stored previously in this first quarter, and that certainly goes with expenditure aspect. And what do you make of the impact of this on government's projects and also possibly the economy?
So anytime we talk about GDP growth, in the classroom, we'll tell you that the components are consumer, household consumption, government expenditure, investment expenditure, and the net export. So when the government spends, it increases GDP growth, especially if what they spend on are locally produced. So if they are spending on contractors, if the contractors are Ghanaians, then the money can stay in the economy and stimulate. Government expenditure can stimulate the economy. So if the government spends, we expect it to stimulate the economy. For example, if the government constructs a road anywhere, you see how businesses spring up around that area. So that's how stimulus the government expenditure can be. So yes, we expect the government to spend, but we know that the government has also made some budgeting about the expenditure. So I don't think that they go beyond. If they will go beyond what they have already budgeted in the 2025 budget, then the mid-year budget will reveal it. Okay, so we are waiting for the mid-year budget to come, and we will see whether or not Honorable Atuforsin will ask for extra appropriation. That will show that the government wants to go beyond whatever they budgeted for. But if the mid-year budget comes and the government still stays within the budget, the expenditure budget, then I'm not sure there should be any worry at all. So yes, it's good that the government resumes. And they have also made it clear in their 2025 budget that they're not going to start new projects. They're going to continue and finish the existing ones. For me, that's a good sentiment that you send, a good signal that you send out, that you are not going to be wasteful, you're not going to start a new project, you're going to make sure that you finish the existing ones, and that when you are done finishing them, then maybe in the coming years, you can start new projects. That is a good thing. I hope that they stay committed to all these promises. But the mid-year budget will expose all the figures to us, and we will interrogate.
All right, we apologize for
whether or not the government will overspend.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Edusa Akodia, for bringing us up-to-date analysis on the government's expenditure and resumption impairment on stored projects. Now, moving on, Finance Minister has given the firm assurance that he will move fast to complete recapitalization of Agricultural Development Bank. The Finance Minister argued this is to ensure that the bank plays its rightful role in the economy. The ministry disclosed this at the swearing-in of new board members for the bank.
I want to reiterate the point that no country develops without sustained agriculture and agribusiness. And so you are put together to develop the sector. At all times, you should be able to agree at the board level that at the minimum, 30 to 40% of your investment lending must be targeted to the sector. I recognize that you will need to recapitalize. I want to use this medium to assure you, board chairman, and to assure the chief executive and the management of the ADB that, as I've done for the NIB this year, next year will be your turn, and I will capitalize you properly for you to be able to achieve what you are supposed to achieve as your mandate. Our Great Development Bank has evolved over the years, but regardless, remember your core mandate. And as a government, we commit to recapitalize you, make you strong, and refocus you back to agriculture.
Now, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, has been stripped of its petroleum funding following amendments into the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. The situation is negatively affecting operations of the committee as many stakeholder activities have been halted since the beginning of the year. Here is more.
The amendments approved by the President revised the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2015, specifically sections 21 and 57, and remove a vital source of financial support that guaranteed PIAC's independence and effectiveness. This change significantly undermines the accountability agency, as the loss of funding has become a major obstacle to fulfilling its responsibilities. For example, since the release of the 2024 annual report on petroleum revenue, PIAC has been unable to engage stakeholders, including civil society organizations, on some key findings, an essential part of its oversight role. Moreover, the committee lacks the necessary government funding to monitor projects or organize community engagements, both crucial elements of its mandate. The situation has worsened due to further budget cuts allocated to the committee for 2025.
Now, government has commenced the construction of the 161-kilometer Ayawaso or Tokumasi transmission line project to deal with low voltages in Kumasi and the Donkwa mining enclave. This follows the increase in power flow after commissioning of a 330 kilovolt transmission line in Anomaso, resulting in the load shedding of existing line beyond its thermal limits. With the upgrade, power supply to the region is expected to improve to enhance socio-economic development. Nanaya Juma was at the groundbreaking ceremony in Kumasi and has filed this report.
The European Union and Government of France-sponsored project seeks to replace the existing single transmission line between Ahonjo and Awomaso substations. The new transmission line will be a double-circuit, twin-bundled transmission line of rated capacity to improve power transfer capacity between the two substations. Aside from improving local transmission, the new line will facilitate the export of power to Burkina Faso. Acting Chief Executive of Gridco, Engineer Mark Ewaba, explains the impact of the new lines on power transmission.
The new project, when completed, will result in doubling the transmission capacity between Awomaso and Ahonjo, where we have the K1 substation. And it will enable us to increase the transmission capacity at the Ahonjo substation to meet increasing demand in Kumasi and its environs. And this will also impact positively on system losses. The project is not just an investment in metals and cables, but also an investment in and for the people of Ghana. It is about connecting communities to opportunities, industries to the energy that fuels and secures our national aspirations, to the realities of growth and development.
The Ministry of Energy and Green Transmission has indicated efforts to improve the sector since the beginning of the year is yielding positive results. Minister John Abdullahi Janapo reviewed it took collaborative efforts of stakeholders to attain the feat.
Indeed, the last month before I assumed office, which was the month of December 2024, the deficit had widened to 750 megawatts thereabout. And so it meant that we could not export power and we could not meet domestic demand. Also, the system was very fragile. And so in my first 2 months, I had a hell of time. And it was indeed very, very difficult. I'm happy to note that through collaborative efforts and with the team we assembled, the power sector today is much, much stable, quite efficient, and all the indicators point to a very positive trajectory.
The project, when completed, is anticipated to improve the socio-economic development of the Ashanti region. Co-funders, European Union and Agence Française de Développement are anticipating the impact of the projects. For Joy News, Nanaya Jima, Kumasi.
Now, the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry has announced plans to roll out a rapid industrialization for jobs initiative. According to its minister, Elizabeth Ofosu-Jare, the move is aimed at creating employment by establishing new industries and reviving old ones. She said the initiative is part of a broader effort to stimulate economic growth and tackle unemployment across the country. She spoke at the launch of the Investment Opportunity Mapping Project by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
The GIPC Investment Opportunity Mapping Project is an initiative by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center aimed at identifying and showcasing high potential investment opportunities across all regions of Ghana. Speaking at the event, Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosu-Jare, said the move will aid in addressing growing unemployment.
Also, the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry will begin implementing the Rapid Industrialization for Jobs initiative, a major effort to create jobs by building new industries and reviving old ones as well. The goal is to add more value to what we produce locally, both for use here in Ghana and for exports. This includes setting up agro-industrial zones across all regions, building small factories to process cassava, tomatoes, fruits, and other crops, and establishing cocoa and cashew processing plants in areas where these crops are grown. I didn't mention Techman enough.
Chief of Staff Julius Debra, speaking at the event, also urged all development partners and stakeholders to support the Ghana Investment Promotion Center in realizing this bold industrial vision.
For too long, Ghana's investment inflows, particularly foreign direct investment, have been heavily concentrated in a few urban centers. Currently, approximately 70% of all foreign direct investment continue to be centralized in Greater Accra only. While some investment flows have trickled into Tokumasi, Takoradi, and Tamale, most of our regions remain underrepresented and underleveraged in the national investment story.
On this spot, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Simon Maggi, says the initiative will empower local economies and unlock investment opportunities across our region.
Investment Opportunity Mapping Project by the GIPC is an undertaking to ensure that we are able to collate all the investment opportunities around the country, the 261 districts of this country. And it will also be done with series of activities to promote the regions and the districts as well. So as I spoke about during the presentation, this IOMP will give us the opportunity, one, to undertake the regional investment roadshows, which is to promote the regions.
The Ghana Investment Promotion Center Investment Opportunity Mapping Project will aid to attract both local and foreign investors by providing data-driven insight into sector-specific and location-specific opportunities.
For more business update, visit myjoyonline.com. As you can see, the headlines are there. Read them and have more insights on what's happening in the world of business. Thanks for watching. My name is Winston Taki. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.